Hello everyone, I'm Raven from Raven Comics, and today we're starting the saga of the Master Race. A good death? It doesn't exist. For a long time, the people of Gotham City and the Bat's allies have presumed him dead. In Gotham, a criminal was being chased by the police. After a few minutes, they finally catch him. The man resists, not wanting to go to jail, but the police point their guns at him. He has to get in the patrol car, otherwise they'll finish him off. But something strange starts happening. The Bat appears, stops the police, and destroys the patrol car. Naturally, this is something that will resonate throughout the city. It's something people won't want to see, but in the interest of impartiality, the media is forced to report it. Most media outlets strive to stay impartial, yet this shocking image seems to show Batman attacking Gotham's police force. These heroes risk their lives to protect the citizens, while Batman appears and takes them down. What's going on with the Bat? He appears every few years, choosing whichever crime he wants to address. The city can't let him continue doing this. To put an end to the acts the Bat provokes whenever he feels like it, Commissioner Eendel will be tasked with catching him. Before she begins, the media asks her what she has to say about Batman's return. Meanwhile, in another place, people are scared, and they will be until their greatest fear arrives, death. This isn't any way to live. He would say, through split and bruised lips, that his fear is my daily bread. That isn't a way to live either. How many times have we saved them? 100 times? Hundreds and hundreds of times? Although numbers may be elusive, the feeling isn't. We are the light in the dark, the shelter from death, the hope in disaster. When they are threatened, we are there. They call us saviors until they call us threats. This has happened hundreds and hundreds of times. We know it, yet we're still there for them. You taught us to be that way. What hurt you so much the last time, my love? Wonder Woman slays a beast and rescues a newborn. She has to stop crying. This nightmare is already dead. The world is safe again, and they're home. Wonder Woman returns to her home and is welcomed back. They hope she enjoyed her journey. Diana says it was incredibly mundane. The only thing she wants is for them to take the child. They have to take Jonathan because she has a training session planned with her daughter. Diana wants to train with her daughter, though to her surprise, she realizes she's not there. This is more common than you'd imagine. Lara is once again in the Arctic. How can this be possible? Why does she keep trying over and over? Now we go to the Fortress of Solitude. Lara was wondering, if only to herself, as all these artifacts and objects have told her that they're important, that they're the parts that mean something, that they mean everything. But what Lara doesn't understand is whether she is a piece or a part of it. In the Fortress of Solitude, Superman is completely frozen. Lara starts crying. Why did he let the ants bring him down from the sky? Is there something she can do to save him? Strange noises start coming from the fortress. Curious, Lara goes to investigate. Not only is Superman frozen here, but there's also a bottle containing a shrunken city. The city cries out for help. Later, we're back in Gotham City. The commissioner is standing in front of the bat signal. Meanwhile, the news continues reporting multiple Batman sightings. Could it be true or a hoax from the city? Other accusations about police corruption have largely been ignored by the mayor's office. The commissioner reflects on how they let this happen. How did they let their distractions become their purpose? When did they stop thinking? Why has Batman returned for this? It sickens her to know she isn't part of it. She used to think she couldn't change without him. Guess who's changed? The commissioner's reflections are interrupted as an officer brings her news. They've caught the Bat. Meanwhile, on the city streets, Batman escapes as quickly as he can from the police. They continue to chase him, calling for reinforcements. They can't let him out of their sight. It seemed the Bat might escape, but unfortunately for him, there's also a crowd of police officers in front of him, determined not to let him go. Batman ducks into an alley only to find, oh surprise, there are police waiting for him here too. If he can't escape on the bike, he'll have to use his grappling gun to flee through the skies. His bike continues at speed and crashes into the patrol cars. From atop a building, Batman simply watches. The city is a bit dark, and one of the officers suggests lighting it up a little. What they didn't expect was that when they turned on that light, Batman would appear in front of them, starting to beat them all. The beating Batman delivers is brutal. We see all the officers are bleeding heavily. If the Bat continues resisting, they'll have no choice but to use lethal force. One officer on the ground picks up his weapon and shoots Batman, hitting him in the head. The shot wasn't lethal, but it definitely threw the Bat off balance. He falls to the ground, and all the officers, filled with rage, take their batons and begin beating him. Now Batman suffers the consequences of fighting the police. One officer asks him if he's had enough. The Bat doesn't respond. It seems he's choosing to remain silent. If that's the case, then he has to be put under arrest. The officer about to cuff him is surprised and distracted. Batman takes advantage of this distraction and delivers a hard punch to the officer's face, breaking his nose. If they thought it was over, they're very wrong. The shot merely grazed his head, and now that he's recovering, he's going to take down these officers who beat him up. Someone new arrives and orders them to stop. The commissioner has arrived, pointing a gun at him. Batman looks very strange and starts to scream in desperation. The commissioner is about to shoot him, but the Bat notices and turns to deliver a hard blow. He disarms her, though, given Batman's injuries, the blow wasn't as effective as it could have been. The commissioner tells him it's over. He has to stop. The Bat tries to throw another punch, but the commissioner dodges. Once he's somewhat weakened, she manages to handcuff him. Before taking him to jail, she has to ask where Bruce Wayne is. The commissioner removes the mask, and we realize that under the hood is Carrie Kelly. Later, we see an image of all the officers who try to fight her lying on the ground. Carrie simply tells the commissioner that Bruce Wayne is dead. Elsewhere, we're with Professor Palmer, who reflects a bit on his past. He's not like Bruce. He was always the type who'd say, if it's broken, smash it. For Batman, there was never a way back. The past was beyond repair. Tear it down and build a new world order, right? To err is human. To forgive is unforgivable. But we're only human, and that was something Batman hated to admit. Batman was supposed to have returned to the streets. News confirmed it wasn't a man, but a girl. When they weren't in disguise, they had real lives, people, and desires. Being a hero was just an extension of what they truly wanted to be. For instance, Palmer is simply a scientist, and being a scientist makes him happy, the ability of his own invention. So it's surprising that in the end, it was their identities that remained secret, wasn't it? For many of them, being heroes wasn't who they really were. It was what they dressed up as. They weren't like the perfect couple. They put on the costumes to hide. And now it seems Batman has sentenced that poor girl he loved so much to a fate worse than death. Batman, don't tell me. Do you have any idea what they're going to do to her? They'll hold her down and dissect her like the dead. They'll make her the face of terror. Palmer starts to hear strange sounds coming from a room in the lab. When he enters, he finds Lara. She greets Professor Palmer. With her, she brings the bottle she found in the Fortress of Solitude. Adam asks what it is. Lara says it's a city from her father's planet, her planet. It was shrunk before Krypton exploded by someone who would later become her father's enemy. So, what does Lara want? Why is she here? The enemy intended to blackmail her father with it. But that's not what Palmer meant. Why is she here in the lab? Well, basically, the city was shrunk, and Lara assumes that Dr. Palmer has the technology to return them to normal. Maybe Val hasn't mentioned it, but he's tired of being small. Meanwhile, we're back with Carrie, who had been arrested by Commissioner Endell. Now the police officers are taking her to prison. One of them is asking people to get out of the way. She seems like a pretty convincing Batman. She only screams in desperation, saying he's dead. Bruce Wayne is dead. Later, we only see her being put into a patrol car. Later, in a cell, the commissioner asks Carrie how Batman died, because that's the only thing she keeps saying. It's been 27 days since she was arrested for reckless behavior, assaulting police officers, resisting arrest, disturbing public order, etc. 27 days, and she hasn't spoken since she came here. Over the last month, she's been part of her morning walk, her afternoon breaks, and her happy hour. How did she get here? How did she become obsessed with a man driven by obsession? How did a girl become so twisted? How did she let herself fall so deeply? One of them will break. Finally, the commissioner tells her she doesn't care. The important thing is that Batman is dead. This is the end of his story. As for Carrie, they have enough to keep her locked up for a long time. long enough that she'll be older by the time she gets out. She can see that defiant look in her eyes. She's old and knows it, as she sees that face in the mirror every morning. And though she won't say she smiles every day when she sees it, she'll say she sees it on her terms. If she doesn't want to talk, fine. She now has to leave, but she should enjoy her face, her stay in Blackgate, before the commissioner leaves the cell. Carrie tells her he never recovered. 3 years ago, a toad named Crew, who knew what was best for humanity, almost bested the best of humanity. Batman and this enemy had a big fight, during which the Bat took a brutal beating that left him bedridden for a long time. The boss never got out of bed after that. He couldn't. He was connected to it by tubes and things like that. Every damn needle kept him alive. Kelly used to be his support. For 3 years, she held his hand. The two of them would talk and tell stories about being a hero, the best things. Some of them got ridiculous as she felt his grip loosening. But then he held her tight and told her that their crusade had to be theirs. Until she held it, it loosened more and more. Her world collapsed around his bed. Bruce Wayne, barely conscious, would ask where the stars were in the sky. There were no stars. This city is still so polluted. Bruce is so happy she's here. They both are. His parents died together. Whether she believes it or not, that gave him some comfort. Bruce always thought he'd die alone. He didn't expect to die with someone by his side. Carrie tells him he's not alone. But a few seconds later, Bruce Wayne dies. Returning to the present, the commissioner asks what she did with the body. Kelly says she ate it. For Eindel, this was an unbelievable story. Kelly realizes she doesn't believe her. But that doesn't matter. Do you understand that now? Finally, Commissioner Eindel realizes that what she believes doesn't matter. Meanwhile, we're in Professor Palmer's lab. A basic principle of Big Bang Theory is that since its conception, the entire universe has been expanding. The whole universe, except for an alien city trapped in a jar, constantly yelling that science is wrong. Lara asks Professor Palmer why they didn't do this before. Adam tells her they did. Lara's father, and he thought they had found the variables. But the results turned out terribly wrong. Lara can't believe it. Her father believes Palmer is a brilliant man. Adam asks her not to take it the wrong way, but her father is much more human than she is. Lara agrees, noting that this may be because he was created by humans. She, on the other hand, was created by her mother in Amazon. Val asks Lara not to distract Professor Palmer while he's working. Lara says he wouldn't even have a job if it weren't for her father's notes. However, Val believes his father's theories would make no sense to anyone but the man who created the technology they're based on. He is Adam, one of Earth's greatest heroes. Palmer asks if he's speaking figuratively. Val regrets his choice of words, as he didn't mean to offend. Suddenly, everything is interrupted. Lara turns around and says her mother is calling her. Once the daughter of Wonder Woman is gone, Val mentions that he can't express what this means for Kandor. For so long, their lives have been hindered by the glass. As her father says, freedom will make them whole again. That's what Palmer hopes for. That's just a phrase, roughly speaking. It would be better to say that a greater power wants what they want. Val agrees, so let it be what God wants. Meanwhile, the news covers Batman's capture. She's set to be arraigned on Friday. Prosecutors are considering a transfer to Blackgate. Later, we see Kelly being transported in a police vehicle, 27 feet from the parking lot to the street, turning left, no stops for 66 seconds, then right. After 9 seconds, another right onto Walker. The boss said heat isn't as bad as one might think, but with all due respect, 120 seconds and no stops, no turns. It's all obvious. The city is bought. Heat owns the streets, red light and green light. Straight ahead, the boss said. He told him he will do what he always does. He said it's not true until it happens. That's why they do what they want. If they know where to start, they know where they're going. They know, so they can't be deceived. She would tell them if she didn't have other things to do with her mouth. Kelly starts whistling, and then we see a small explosion at the police station. The commissioner is receiving an infrared signal from a warehouse half a block away. Transport 1 has to take evasive action immediately. They can't do it right away. It's too late for that. The vehicle spins out of control after being hit. The van is armored. They'll be fine as long as they don't want to fight back. A Batmobile appears in front of the van. Alarms go off. All units need to move. This is a Code 9. The thing in front of them hit the van, and the boys need to move. The Batmobile starts its escape. As it reaches a bridge, it encounters 2 patrol cars but shoots them down without issue. At the station, the commissioner gives orders. Raise the damn bridge. Officers nearby are in position to shoot. Commissioner Eendel orders them to fire at their discretion. The shot hits its target, but it isn't very effective. The Batmobile resumes normally. Looks like we have a problem, and it's no longer moving forward. The bridge is up. The Batmobile stops completely. Several officers approach the vehicle to inspect it. They tell the commissioner it's empty. That's what they thought. The vehicle suddenly turns on. The transport has the technology to handle inclines like these. For Kelly, sometimes doing this isn't as fun as it seems. Elsewhere, Professor Palmer is terrified. With Val's help, he's learned everything there is to know about Kryptonian physiology. He's been able to modify his shrinking technology and create a device that can make the Kandorians grow. In theory, of course, the process begins newly with the Flash. It's a 30-year forgotten irony, the button, the end. The experiment has worked, but as Palmer removes his glasses, he begins to cry. Here are the Kryptonians, but there are also many who were killed. Val tells Professor Palmer to allow him to introduce him to his father. He is the savior of Kandor. Kor introduces himself to Dr. Palmer, delighted to meet him, as he's been a great inspiration. Now that he sees them up close, Palmer says he's made a terrible mistake. Kor regrets that he feels that way, and please, he can find solace in knowing that it will be his last mistake. This device he's wearing is something marvelous. What happens if its power is irreversibly reversed? An atom would eventually make him smaller, wouldn't it? Adam says he can fix this, and as he gets smaller, he's in for a terrible surprise, as Val crushes him like a tiny ant. Kor stands before his children, before their wives. He just wants them to breathe. They must savor it. The air's scented by the yellow sun, in and out. It's delicious. And now, their precious, beautiful Kandor will have to pay the price. They thought his church was crazy. They called him a monster. He begged them, gave everyone a chance to join him in heaven. It's a pity they refused. Now he will take the city of Kandor trapped in this jar to finish it. His children must know that the trials are over. Now the universe is calling them. They'll deal with it. His children need to know that this will be their universe and that they can play with it. But first, they must play with Earth. Meanwhile, Lara says that her whole life was kept a secret. The world couldn't know she existed. For most people, a child is celebrated and shared. She was hidden from most. A child is a source of pride. In her case, she was a well of anxiety and fear. Lara meets her mother, who tells her she's late for her lesson. Diana knows her daughter is at that terrible age. She hears her words as shackles, which is why everything she says is challenged. She refuses to be dominated. Diana was young and energetic and thought she knew everything. She wonders if that's not because, as youths, we're told how special and unique we are, so much so that we believe our own exaggeration. But despite what parents say, being special isn't something you're born with or something to be passed down. Being special is something we can develop through curiosity, exercise, and discipline. Diana trains with her daughter, telling her reactions are slow. Lara gives her a dirty look. Diana asks what she did to make her look at her that way. Lara says it's all boring and unnecessary. After all, she's Kryptonian. After an intense battle and a few words, Diana tries to hit her daughter with her sword, but it breaks. Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe for more content like this. I'm TJ Prime, and see you in the next video.